Welcome to Relational Wisdom Session 3. We're going to do James 3:13 to 4:10 today. The part that really stands out to me when I'm reading this whole passage is how wisdom and meekness are correlated. Wisdom is, associated with being humble, described as peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy. In fact, John and I have this particular verse on our toilet door, and I look at it every day as a reminder to myself. The opposite of wisdom and meekness then is pridefulness. It's pushing forward your own agenda and your own ideas over others. It's being brash and harsh, being closed off to reason, lacking in mercy, maybe condemning others and giving people what you think they deserve. But wisdom from God actually places ourselves firstly under the authority of God, and where we draw close to Him and actually reflect who He is to those around us. And even Jesus kind of alluded to this in Matthew 11, where He says, "Learn from me because I'm gentle and lowly in heart." And Jesus was the epitome of godly wisdom. And I was reflecting on, areas in my life where sometimes I demonstrate earthly wisdom, sometimes I demonstrate heavenly wisdom by God's grace. But whenever I do have earthly wisdom or operate out of that, I feel like it's always a striving and a struggle. In conflicts, in the arena of conflicts or managing conflicts, when I operate out of earthly wisdom, I tend to think about all the reasons why I am upset with someone, or why that person has hurt me, or why it's not fair for me, why I deserve to be angry, what I want to see changed in the other person. And the goal is often to get what I want, which is also talked about in James 4:1-3. But when I operate in how I manage conflicts using heavenly wisdom, I always feel like a peace and a certainty in obedience to God. And the goal is entirely different. Instead of trying to get what I want and striving to, meet my rights, the desire in the way I manage with people is to desire the will of God in the way I relate to them. To first have pure intentions for the good of others, to aim for peace, to speak to people gently as people that God loves and values, being ready to hear what they have to say, being quick to listen and slow to anger, being willing to forgive even when others don't deserve it, because Christ first forgave me. It can be difficult to exercise heavenly wisdom in the middle of a conflict, but I find that when I submit every single conflict I have to God in prayer, I find that He not only gives me His perspective about the situation, but He helps me to see that person I'm angry with through His eyes. And He also gives me the supernatural love I need to handle this whole situation with godly wisdom. And Jesus, again, is a really good example of this. When the Pharisees and the religious leaders were accusing Him and trying to trap Him and make Him stumble, He didn't retaliate in pride. He didn't retaliate in bitterness or violence or aggression. He could have said, "Don't you know who I am?" and destroy them instantly. But instead of doing that, He actually showed us what it was like to draw His strength and wisdom continually from the Father. He went away in isolation or in solitude to spend time with God and to draw that wisdom from Him. And then when He went back to interact with Pharisees and all these religious leaders and people who were trying to give Him a hard time, He pointed them back to the heart of God. Even when they were engaging in arguments about the law and they were trying to win an argument, He didn't try to engage with that or try to prove them wrong. Instead of engaging with that, He actually used that as an opportunity to teach them about what God intended for the law and to teach them what actually mattered to God. Jesus didn't glorify Himself through winning these arguments, but He glorified Himself through giving up His life for other people. And so in the same way, when we operate with heavenly wisdom, we put the needs of others before ourselves for the glory of God. And so I really encourage you guys to do that as well.